Today, we are revealing the 10 most hated towns in Mississippi. And number one is both the murder capital of America and a state capital that could not get clean water to come out of its own faucets. There is a town where a 14-year-old boy was tortured and killed, and his murderers walked free, then sold their confession to a magazine for money. There's also a beautiful tourist town that hides one of the largest slave markets in the history of this country. So stay with me, because we are counting these down from the ones that are just worn out to the one at the very top that a whole city is still paying for. Number 10, Greenville. Out in the Mississippi Delta sits Greenville, once a proud cotton port on the Great River, now a case study in slow collapse. Its population has fallen by roughly a third since 1990, from over 45,000 people down to around 29,000, and it has carried a poverty rate above 20% for 4 straight decades, the kind of number the census calls persistent poverty. Greenville is not evil. It is just worn down to the studs, a town the money left and never came back to. It is the gentlest stop on this whole list. Every town after this one did not only fade, something was done to it, or something happened inside it. And the next town is where the numbers start to get frightening. Number 9, Meridian. In the eastern part of the state, Meridian looks the part of a historic railroad city, grand old buildings, and a restored opera house downtown. But pull the crime data and the picture darkens fast. Meridian's violent crime rate runs past 500 for every 100,000 people, and its overall crime rate tops 4,000 per 100,000, leaving more than 90% of Mississippi communities safer than it is. Nearly 32% of the people here live below the poverty line, more than 1 in 3. Add years of population loss and an economy that never fully recovered from the death of the railroads, and you get a city quietly fighting itself. Meridian is a beautiful old place that too many of its own people are trying to leave, but a struggling city you can at least see coming. The next town's tragedy is that it died famous. Number 8, Clarksdale. Clarksdale is holy ground for American music. This is the Delta town where the blues was born, where legend says Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads, the birthplace of a sound that changed the world. And it is falling apart. The median household income here is around $36,000, and the poverty rate sits above 40%, 4 in 10 people. The population is still shrinking, down almost 10% since the last census. Boarded storefronts lining the same streets that once made history. Tourists fly in from Europe and Japan to stand at the crossroads and hear live blues in a juke joint, then drive past block after block of a town the modern economy simply forgot. Clarksdale gave the world its music and got left with almost nothing. And the next town's poverty was so raw, it embarrassed the entire nation. Number 7, Tunica. Before there were casinos, there was Sugar Ditch. In the 1980s, a neighborhood in Tunica became a symbol of the worst poverty in America. Rows of tin and wood shacks with no indoor plumbing lined along an open ditch that ran thick with raw human sewage. People literally called it Sugar Ditch Alley. When Reverend Jesse Jackson came through, he looked at it and called Tunica County America's Ethiopia. And the federal government's own statistics named it the single poorest county in the United States. The images shamed the country into action. Then, in the 1990s, the casinos arrived and Tunica boomed, briefly the 3rd largest gaming market in America. And then, that boom faded too, casinos closing, jobs leaving, the county sliding back toward where it started. Tunica has been America's poster child for poverty and America's gambling miracle in the same lifetime, and Tunica County still carries a poverty rate above 30% today. It is not clear it ever came out ahead. If you are still with me this far down, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the back half of this list is the part people do not forget. And it only gets darker from here, starting with a town where the real danger is not the people, it is what is buried in the ground. Number 6, Columbia. This quiet town in South Mississippi looks harmless enough until you learn what is buried underneath it. Starting in 1974, a company called Reichhold Chemicals ran a plant right in the middle of Columbia, on an 81-acre site ringed by people's homes, mixing industrial chemicals just steps from their backyards. In 1977, the plant exploded and burned, and then the company simply walked away, leaving barrels of chemicals buried in the ground. When federal investigators finally came in, what they found was staggering. Around 170 different chemicals on the site, including roughly 30 separate carcinogens, 600 rusting surface drums, and 2 contaminated ponds, all of it next to where families lived. The EPA declared it a Superfund site in 1984, and the neighborhood has been fighting the health fallout ever since. Imagine a chemical plant blowing up in the middle of your town and leaving 30 cancer-causing chemicals in the dirt your kids play in. But at least Columbia's poison was an accident. The next 2 towns hold a horror that was done on purpose, in cold blood, and one of them the entire country learned by name. Number 5, Philadelphia. Just outside this quiet town in June of 1964, 3 young civil rights workers, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, were ambushed and murdered by the Klan. They had come to investigate the burning of a black church. A local deputy arrested them on a minor traffic charge, held them, and then released them straight into the hands of a waiting mob. Their bodies were found weeks later, buried in an earthen dam. The case became known nationally as Mississippi Burning, and it helped force the Civil Rights Act through Congress. But here is the part that tells you everything. It took 41 years. Not until 2005 was a single man, a Klan leader and part-time preacher named Edgar Ray Killen, finally convicted, and only of manslaughter. For 4 decades, everyone in that town knew, and nothing happened, and the next town holds a horror that is older and somehow even harder to sit with. Number 4, money. Today, money is barely a dot on the map, a shuttered store, and a few buildings along a Delta road. But in August of 1955, a 14-year-old boy named Emmett Till, visiting from Chicago, walked into Bryant's grocery here. Days later, 2 white men dragged him from his relative's home in the night, beat him beyond recognition, shot him, wired a heavy cotton gin fan to his body, and sank him in the Tallahatchie River. His mother insisted on an open casket so the whole world would see what they did, and that image helped ignite the civil rights movement. The 2 men were tried, and an all-white jury acquitted them in barely an hour. Then, protected forever by double jeopardy, they sold their full confession to a magazine for a few $1,000s. The ruins of that grocery store still stand in money today, crumbling by the road, and no one was ever punished. The next town was not destroyed by people. It was destroyed by the sky. Number 3, Rolling Fork. On the night of March 24, 2023, a monstrous EF4 tornado with winds near 195 miles an hour dropped onto Rolling Fork and simply erased it. 17 people were killed, more than 160 injured, and roughly 300 homes and businesses were flattened into splinters and twisted metal in a matter of minutes. The mayor said it plainly, his town was gone, and here is the cruelty of it. Rolling Fork sits in Sharkey County, one of the poorest counties in the entire nation, a place that had almost nothing to lose and lost it anyway. When a town this poor is leveled, there is no cushion, no savings, no easy rebuild. Rolling Fork is what happens when the worst luck lands on the people least able to absorb it, and the next town will sting because you may already be dreaming of moving there. Number 2, Natchez. And it hurts, because Natchez is genuinely gorgeous. High on a bluff over the Mississippi River, it has more grand antebellum mansions than almost any town in the South, and every year tourists and retirees flock here for the pilgrimage home tours, the history, the charm. Here is what those mansion tours tend to skip. Natchez was home to the Forks of the Road, the second largest slave market in the entire Deep South. For decades, tens of thousands of enslaved men, women, and children were shipped down from Virginia and the Carolinas and sold here like livestock, up to 32 dealers working the site at its peak. The beautiful mansions the tourists photograph were built quite literally on the profits of that trade. Natchez is one of the loveliest towns in America, sitting on top of one of its darkest histories. Walk those pretty streets, but know what you are standing on. Which brings us finally to number one, the town you have been waiting for since the very first minute of this video. Number one, Jackson. The capital of Mississippi and the hardest place to defend on this entire list because it carries two catastrophes at once. First, Jackson has, year after year, the highest murder rate of any city in the entire United States. Even in 2024, after 3 straight years of decline, it still recorded 111 homicides and remained, per person, the deadliest city in America. And second, in August of 2022, the city's main water treatment plant failed and more than 150,000 people, an entire capital city, were left without safe drinking water for weeks. The National Guard handed out bottled water on street corners, and that was not a freak event. Between 2020 and 2022, Jackson issued around 300 boil water notices, and the federal government eventually stepped in and took control of the system. Think about that. A state capital in the richest country on earth, where you could not safely drink from your own tap and could not safely walk some streets after dark. That is how you earn number one. So there they are, 10 Mississippi towns most of the state would rather you forgot, and the pattern never changes. The money leaves, or the water goes bad, or the storm hits, and the people with options get out first. Tell me in the comments which one shocked you the most, and hit that subscribe button, because I break down the best and worst places to live in America every single week. And if you think Mississippi is rough, wait until you see Georgia, where one town on my list pumped a chemical straight into its own drinking water for years, watched it pour brown out of the faucet, and swore to everyone it was safe. That video is on your screen right now. I will see you there.